The legend of the ghost horse. In the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, there existed a tale that had been passed down through generations. The locals spoke of a ghost horse that roamed the hills, a spectral steed with eyes that glowed like embers and a mane that shimmered like moonlight. It was said to be the spirit of a once majestic stallion named Thunder, who met a tragic end under mysterious circumstances. Thunder's legend was not just a campfire story but a haunting reality that cast a long shadow over the valley. Chapter 1: The Birth of Thunder. Thunder was born in a small, remote village nestled in a valley surrounded by dense forests and towering peaks. The villagers revered Thunder for his beauty and strength, and he quickly became a beloved figure in the community. His owner, a young man named Ethan, shared a special bond with Thunder. They were inseparable, exploring the mountains and valleys together, their spirits intertwined with the land. Thunder's birth was seen as a blessing, and he quickly became the pride of the village, symbolizing hope and strength. Chapter 2: Ethan and Thunder's Bond. Ethan and Thunder's bond was extraordinary. From the moment Thunder was born, Ethan knew that the horse was special. They trained together, mastering the rugged terrain of the mountains. Ethan would often be seen riding Thunder at dawn, their silhouettes framed by the rising sun. They communicated in a way that transcended words. Thunder seemed to understand Ethan's thoughts and emotions. Their connection was the talk of the village, inspiring awe and admiration. Chapter 3: The Tragic Night. One fateful night, a violent storm swept through the valley. Thunder, sensing something amiss, grew restless. Ethan, concerned for his beloved horse, ventured out into the storm to calm him. As lightning flashed and thunder roared, a blinding bolt struck the stable, setting it ablaze. Ethan, in a desperate attempt to save Thunder, rushed into the inferno. The villagers watched in horror as the stable burned, but neither Ethan nor Thunder emerged. When the fire finally subsided, the stable was reduced to ashes, and the charred remains of Ethan were found, but Thunder was nowhere to be seen. The villagers mourned the loss of Ethan and assumed that Thunder had perished in the flames as well. Chapter 4: The First Sightings. Weeks passed, and whispers of strange occurrences began to spread through the village. Some claimed to have seen a ghostly horse galloping through the forest at night, its eyes glowing like fiery coals. Others heard the distant, haunting sound of hoofbeats echoing through the valleys. Fear and superstition took hold, and the legend of the ghost horse was born. The sightings were sporadic at first, but they became more frequent, and the villagers grew increasingly uneasy. The forest surrounding the village became a place of dread. Few dared to venture into its depths, especially after dark. Those who did returned with tales of eerie encounters, ghostly apparitions, cold winds that seemed to whisper their names, and the unmistakable feeling of being watched. The villagers believed that Thunder's spirit was restless, searching for something lost in the mortal realm. Chapter 5: The Curse Unveiled. As the ghost horse's appearances became more frequent, an old villager named Agnes, known for her knowledge of ancient folklore, revealed a chilling prophecy. She claimed that Thunder's spirit was cursed, bound to the earthly realm until a great wrong was righted. According to the prophecy, Thunder's ghost would roam the valley, seeking justice and peace, until someone could uncover the truth behind his tragic demise and free his soul. Agnes's revelation added a new layer of fear and urgency to the villagers' plight. They realized that Thunder's spirit was not merely restless but trapped in a cycle of torment. The prophecy suggested that only by understanding the true nature of Thunder's death could they hope to release him from his spectral prison. Chapter 6: Dr. Samuel Mercer's Arrival. Years later, a stranger arrived in the village. His name was Dr. Samuel Mercer, an antiquarian and scholar of the supernatural. Drawn by the legend of the ghost horse, he was determined to uncover the truth behind the haunting. Dr. Mercer set up camp at the edge of the forest, where he spent his days researching and his nights listening for the ghostly hoofbeats. His presence brought a mix of hope and skepticism to the villagers. Some saw him as a savior who might finally lay the ghost to rest, while others feared he would only stir up more trouble. Dr. Mercer, however, was undeterred. He meticulously gathered accounts of the sightings, interviewed the villagers, and pored over ancient texts in search of clues. Chapter 7: The Encounter. One moonless night, as Dr. Mercer sat by his campfire, he heard the distant sound of hooves. Heart pounding, he followed the noise into the forest, guided by the faint glow of Thunder's eyes. As he approached a clearing, he saw the spectral horse standing in the moonlight, its eyes locked onto his. Dr. Mercer, in awe and terror, realized that the ghost horse was trying to communicate with him. The encounter was a profound moment for Dr. Mercer. He felt a connection to the horse, a deep empathy for its plight. The ghost horse's eyes, glowing with an otherworldly light, seemed to convey a plea for help. Dr. Mercer knew that this was the key to understanding the curse and finding a way to break it. Chapter 8: The Vision. In a flash, Dr. Mercer was engulfed in a vision. He saw the events of that tragic night through Thunder's eyes, the fear, the fire, and the desperate search for Ethan. He felt Thunder's anguish and guilt for not being able to save his friend. When the vision ended, Dr. Mercer understood that Thunder's spirit was not seeking vengeance but peace. The vision left Dr. Mercer shaken but resolute. He realized that the bond between Ethan and Thunder was the key to breaking the curse. Their connection had been so strong that it transcended death, and only by understanding and honoring that bond could he hope to set Thunder's spirit free. Chapter 9: The Quest for Redemption. Determined to help Thunder find rest, Dr. Mercer delved deeper into the village's history. He discovered that Ethan's family had owned a locket, a cherished heirloom that had been lost in the fire. Believing that the locket held the key to Thunder's redemption, Dr. Mercer set out to find it. His search led him to the ruins of the stable. After days of digging through the ashes, he uncovered a small, fire-blackened box. Inside was the locket, miraculously intact. Engraved with Ethan's name and a picture of Thunder, the locket was a symbol of their unbreakable bond. Dr. Mercer knew that he had found a crucial piece of the puzzle. The locket was a tangible connection to Ethan and Thunder's past, a symbol of their enduring bond. He felt a surge of hope, believing that this was the key to breaking the curse and freeing Thunder's spirit. Chapter 10: The Final Ride. With the locket in hand, Dr. Mercer returned to the clearing where he had first encountered Thunder. As he held the locket aloft, the ghost horse appeared, its eyes glowing with recognition. Dr. Mercer placed the locket on the ground, and Thunder stepped forward, his spectral form shimmering in the moonlight. In that moment, the bond between Ethan and Thunder was restored, and the ghostly steed began to fade. As dawn broke, the villagers awoke to find the forest bathed in an ethereal light. The fear and dread that had plagued them for years lifted, replaced by a sense of peace. Dr. Mercer, exhausted but triumphant, knew that Thunder's spirit had finally found rest. The legend of the ghost horse became a story of redemption and the enduring power of friendship. Chapter 11: The Haunting Returns. But peace was short-lived. A year later, new sightings of the ghost horse began. This time, the appearances were different, more frequent, more desperate. Dr. Mercer returned to the village, realizing that Thunder's spirit was once again restless. The locket had not been the final piece after all. The villagers, though initially relieved by Thunder's departure, were thrown back into a state of fear. They began to avoid the forest completely, and whispers of a new curse spread like wildfire. Dr. Mercer knew he had to find out what had gone wrong. Chapter 12: The Hidden Diary. Dr. Mercer's research led him to an old diary belonging to Ethan's grandmother. In it, he discovered references to an ancient ritual performed by the village's ancestors to protect their land from dark forces. The ritual, however, had been interrupted the night of the fire, leaving a rift between the world of the living and the dead. The diary revealed that the ritual was meant to seal a protective barrier around the village, ensuring that spirits could not cross into the mortal realm. The fire had disrupted the ritual, creating a gateway that allowed Thunder's spirit to remain trapped. Dr. Mercer realized that to break the curse, he would need to complete the ritual that had been interrupted. Chapter 13: The Gathering. Dr. Mercer gathered the villagers and explained the situation. They needed to perform the ancient ritual to close the rift and allow Thunder's spirit to move on. Despite their fear and skepticism, the villagers agreed to help. They collected the necessary items, a silver chalice, sacred herbs, and a ceremonial dagger, and prepared for the ritual. The gathering was a tense affair. The villagers, many of whom had never believed in the supernatural, were now faced with the reality of their situation. Dr. Mercer guided them through the preparations, explaining each step of the ritual and its significance. He knew that they had one chance to get it right. Chapter 14, The Ritual. Under the light of the full moon, the villagers assembled in the clearing. Dr. Mercer led them in the ritual, chanting the ancient words inscribed in the diary. As they performed the ceremony, a cold wind swept through the forest, and Thunder's ghost appeared once more, watching silently from the shadows. The ritual was a delicate process. Dr. Mercer could feel the tension in the air as the villagers recited the incantations. The wind grew stronger, and the ghost horse's presence became more palpable. The ground beneath them seemed to tremble as they neared the final steps of the ritual. Chapter 15, The Final Confrontation. As the ritual reached its climax, the ground shook violently, and a dark figure emerged from the forest. It was the spirit of a malevolent force, drawn to the rift created by the interrupted ritual. The villagers, paralyzed with fear, watched as Dr. Mercer confronted the entity, chanting the final incantation with all his strength. The confrontation was a harrowing experience. Dr. Mercer felt a cold, malevolent presence trying to overpower him. He focused all his energy on the incantation, drawing strength from the villagers' support and the memory of Thunder and Ethan's bond. The malevolent spirit lashed out, but Dr. Mercer stood his ground, determined to see the ritual through. Chapter 16, The Reunion. As Dr. Mercer completed the ritual, a blinding light enveloped the clearing. The malevolent spirit shrieked and vanished, and Thunder's ghostly form began to shimmer and fade. In that moment, Dr. Mercer saw Ethan's spirit appear beside Thunder, their bond restored in death. The two spirits, reunited at last, ascended into the light together. The reunion was a poignant moment. The villagers watched in awe as Thunder and Ethan's spirits finally found peace. The bond that had transcended life and death was now complete, and the rift between the worlds began to close. Chapter 17, The Aftermath. With the ritual complete and the rift sealed, the forest returned to its natural state. The villagers, though shaken by the events, felt a renewed sense of peace and closure. Dr. Mercer, having fulfilled his mission, prepared to leave the village, knowing that the legend of the ghost horse had finally come to an end. The aftermath of the ritual left a lasting impact on the village. The fear and superstition that had plagued them for years were replaced by a sense of unity and hope. Dr. Mercer left behind a detailed account of the events, ensuring that future generations would understand the true story of Thunder and Ethan. Though the ghostly sightings ceased, the story of Thunder and Ethan lived on. The villagers, inspired by their tale, cherished the bond between man and horse and remembered the importance of friendship, loyalty, and sacrifice. Dr. Mercer's account became a treasured part of the village's history, a reminder of the enduring power of love and the possibility of redemption even in the face of tragedy. The legend of Thunder became more than just a ghost story, it became a symbol of the village's resilience and the strength of the human spirit. Future generations grew up hearing the tale, inspired by the courage and determination of Ethan, Thunder, and Dr. Mercer. The valley, once shrouded in fear, flourished with new life and hope, forever changed by the legacy of the ghost horse.
Don't forget to subscribe.